right, everybody. It is 11:11 on the dot. It's a synchronistic event in my world. It's not. Oh, and I got God voice on. But my name is Time Dad Alpha. I'm the original Twitcher. What is a Twitcher? Twitcher is a trickster character that has been invented to sort of replace the idea of teacher, professor, the concepts of a mysterious, mystical witch-type person, anything that you can lump into the idea of, mystic. And the funny part about mystics is they don't want your money. The truest mystics out there, they just want to point a direction. They want to walk away. Prophets fall into this category. All sorts of weird and bizarro types, the eccentric types, the outlanders, the people that sit on the edge of town, the ones that don't venture into or want the spotlight too much. So hence the reason I'm in this dark, dark corner of the politics section of Twitch. And it's also one of the reasons that I don't care what you see and what you don't see. Yeah, so if you're watching this, please understand that there's things that I do and there's things that I don't do. One of those things that I do is I play music. I play it very badly, and I play it I have a little, what's it called? MIDI guitar here. See if this works. And then I also have a piano I need to, and this is the problem about, showing up, getting everything on board, and that's what I'm trying to do in these first couple minutes. I'm only going to be on here for about an hour, and it's not to blow smoke or goof off like yesterday. All we did was talk about conspiracies, and today we're going to talk about, just a few other weird oddities about our political sphere. So let me go ahead and turn on the chat. If you're already here and you're in the chat, I didn't have it up. I'm not looking at it right now, but now I am. So if you want to jump in and say hello, something in the chat, that's great. Or you can do it while I'm playing this awesome song, and we're just going to let people roll in for the next, 4, 5, 6 minutes. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Just a simple song, nothing crazy. That's just it. I want to keep this simple. That's all I've ever wanted to do. So, hey, how's it going, guys? Gotta turn this guy on. Well, there's the God voice. There's my horrible plane, and we are hitting about 7 minutes. So, yeah, let's turn this guy off too. As you can see, I play really badly, but I'm trying my hardest just to goof off, have fun, let people understand that I'm not here to play music. I'm here to self-express. I'm here to say, hi, how's it going? Weird guy standing over here, that probably shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be in the politics section. And there's a big reason for that. But, like I said, I am the perfect little nobody from nowhere. And I'm not here to make you feel bad about what you've chosen in life. But if you're here to find the difference between the Democrat and the Republican, please realize that you're probably going to be barking up the wrong tree hanging out with a guy like me. So, oops. We got to change this guy real quick. That's not supposed to be there. But then again, this is what happens when I start off the mess that is this thing called the stream. It's like everything gets discombobulated. OBS is a joke. Anyone who's ever messed with OBS knows that it's a joke. Actually, I've wondered quite a bit about OBS and how it works. And when I get into it, like how it's set up and how it uses browser broadcast, it's like it has to have some browser abilities all into itself, the abilities to communicate on a transport layer of the OSI model of this is all code for network engineers who understand things. That there's a physical layer, like the thing that you touch, like the thing that you're physical, and then there's that data link layer, there's the transport layer, there's an application layer, there's all these layers to how the communication of a network works. And so when I look at OBS, I'm going, there's something funky going on with this particular thing, and it's almost like it was built purposely for this type of situation, for the, hey, I want to come out, I want to say, hi, how's it going, I want to go live, I want to sort of show my own world the way I want to show it. And, I think it's worked really, really, really well for Twitch. And that's why I chose Twitch. It's like, dude, it can't do YouTube. YouTube's too censored. It's too censored. You can't do, a lot of these other sort of bizarro platforms that are trying to, butt into the market, but it's so saturated right now. The funny thing about TikTok and what YouTube noticed right away. I mean, you've noticed YouTube Shorts and how they're pushing it on you. Like they're like, nope, you will go to YouTube Shorts. Like we'll make sure that you find your way to it because we want to get you hooked on this stuff. And we've never had a visual version of our, what drugs are. It's like when you have a stimuli via your vision. Like no one talks about this stuff. I mean, I remember growing up and being like the war on marijuana, the war on like the idea of no cannabis, no drugs, no nothing, everything that isn't, perfectly prescribed to you by the doctor, right? Which is just as bad. That's the silly thing. It's just as bad. I just sort of sit back and laugh. I was like, well, what would be the technological consumption of a drug? Like how would you visually insert this into our society? And if you've noticed, it's like not only has this happened with TikTok, and I highly recommend people go look up where TikTok came from and how it was implemented and why it's not allowed at the Pentagon and why even the family members of military members are told to remove it from their devices. I mean, that's a big deal. When you give an order out to the military saying, do not have this stuff on you or let your family have it on you. And it's just like, why haven't you given that to the rest of the public? What is it that's so bad about this? And I was asked yesterday to talk a little bit about conspiracy theory. So I'm going to repeat just a tad of what I said yesterday. And it's just a simple thing. It's like conspiracy, the idea that you're going to keep something secret. There's nothing wrong with keeping something secret. There's a value in secrecy. There's value in it. And the value in secrecy is that if you want, like, for example, I'm not going to show you my cards if we're playing poker. There's a value there, okay? And just like there's a value in information. Information is knowledge. Knowledge is power. So when someone says conspiracy, what they're trying to say is like, you should show me your hand or feel guilty that you're not. Like, dude, you're not playing the game. So that's conspiracy. Now, the idea of theory, right, is just this the same thing that we learned in science class, the idea of the scientific method. You come up with an idea, a theory, and then you test it. So I want to test what secrets you're holding. What is wrong with that? What is wrong with that? Like, and I think the word conspiracy theory was a trigger word that was developed back in the 1960s, sort of like anti-Semite, even BLM. Like when people say BLM, it conjures certain images in the mind. And like I said, I come from a place that does that very, very well. My job was cryptologic linguistics, network engineering. And then before that, I was heavy into a religion that most people know as Mormonism. And Mormonism is nothing more than a multi-level marketing scam. No different than the, Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, you get into a lot of these religions, and right around the same time they ask you for money, you can see their whole bag of tricks just falling out onto the table, because these are all, if you're a pastor or you're a preacher, I'm just like, basically to me you're just a lowbrow magician. You're just lowbrow. Like you're not that person that enjoys the mystery. You're not the reason the monastery was built. And the reason that the monasteries were kept away from the public. Like I always point out, I was like, what's funny? Every single time, like you get into the religious world or the political world, you get to a point where I'm in politics, and then you get this tiny, tiny little world that even those people aren't even allowed to go to. And those are the people that run everything. And they run everything by keeping things in-house. They keep things secret. Like if they told you straight off the bat, I don't care what religion you are, that eventually they were going to ask you for your money or make you feel guilty if you don't give it to them, right? And that was the bottom of their line. And then they're going to hold that your dream or your passion hostage until you give them money, right? No one would ever go to church, right? No one would ever find any value in it. But of course they dress it up with, we're helping the poor, we're doing all these look at Black Lives Matter. That's what they do. The Republicans are just as bad. And that's what I do here. I'm not here to push an agenda. I'm not here to say, I'm here to pull the curtain all the way back. And then when someone finally goes, okay, Tet. All right, Tet. I understand, Tet. You said it. Your democracy's outdated. It's bullshit. It's all a lie. You convinced me. You persuaded me. Now what? I'm waiting for that question. And then I'm just going to be like, dude, you already have the answer. It's sitting in your hand. You're watching me on it. It's called AI. And it's been propagandized to you by your, Hollywood, which is an extension of your government. It's like it's so weird how we look at the CCP or we look at, China, and we're like, oh my gosh, it's so bad over there because they banned Winnie the Pooh because it looked like him that one time. And it's like Hunter Biden laptop story. It's like, you don't think censorship exists in America, and if it makes your politicians look stupid and hasn't been going on like since before I was born back in 1981. And that's just it. It's like, I wish somebody had told me all this stuff when I was a kid. I wish somebody had laid it out for me and said, hey, here's the deal. You're a kid, be a kid. All right. There's going to come the time where you ask that simple question. This is why I think the coolest people in the world to hang out with, are like 5 and 6 years olds, right? And before your brain goes off to some bullshit groomer, nonsense, I like hanging around with them because they have no filter, much like myself. And I like the idea that, when they ask a question, it's truly coming from the most innocent place because they have a very innocent question. They don't understand the ramifications of the society and the social pressures of asking the wrong question in the wrong circumstance. The age-old adage of when in Rome really does apply. So when I'm talking about these things and I'm putting them out there in these type of situations and I'm saying, hey, this is a conspiracy theory to me, right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with conspiracy as long as you break it down to what it's supposed to be. Right. So when I look at what's happening and people are like, oh, the election fraud and all this stuff and all that stuff, I'm just going, absolutely plausible. But I think it's more than it's there to actually happen as election fraud. I think the idea is that it's always been built, and this is just the new carrot to keep you attached to your screen. It's just to keep you spinning, and it's one of those things that when you finally take a step back and you look at your news sources and the tools that they use on you, I mean, because they have to hide their tools. They can't come out and tell you that that's what they're doing. Otherwise, you don't tune in. They are there to play on your emotions. They're playing on your Paleolithic emotions of fear, saying if you don't tune in, you won't get the right answer. And if you don't get the right answer, you could be at risk. It's no different than a military version of the sitrep. I was in the military for almost a dozen years, from 2005 to 2016, right before the Trumpster got out. And when Trump hit, I was blown away, because you have to understand, for my whole life, I basically lived this. And then in 2016, it was like Dobby got fucking clothes. I wasn't someone's little slave bitch anymore. And I could use my abilities the way I wanted to. And I didn't want to have kids. I didn't want to have this. I went basically, batshit crazy for a while, because I was so used to people telling me what to do. And there was a version of me that was just that had never existed before. And when I realized that version of me really wasn't happy with the state of America, because I saw simple solutions that just were not being implemented for the benefit of the few that sat in strategic places of business. So if people are if they're coming here politics this and politics that, and I'm like, great. Are you so wrapped up in the story you can't see the origin of the story? I'm here to keep it simple. I'm here to keep it basic, right? I'm not here to sit there and pontificate about, the idea of the actual person who is Hunter Biden. And I'm like, you mean the guy that has no problem with his stuff being splattered everywhere, just like a socialite, any other socialite, any other celebrity. It's like people enjoy the idea of having their triggers, I think, in a little way. And people enjoy the pain of that. And it's a very bizarre thing. It's like getting people to punch themselves in the face will always be hilarious, will always be funny. The sad part is the person that doesn't realize that the trick is being played on them, and then even afterwards will never understand it, and keeping them in that trick mode. There's a point where that becomes, a detriment to society. It's like kicking a puppy. It's like, you're sitting there going, man, we probably shouldn't be doing that anymore. But it's just like, dude, this is the big always feed on the weak. And that's there's this idea of predator and prey that will always be around. And so when you finally realize, what are you? Are you the predator or are you the prey? I was like, actually, sweetheart, buddy, bro, you're both. You eat to live, just like everybody else, right? The factor is the game plan. Do not shit where you eat. That's the whole idea. It's like you come up with your own personal set of rules and values, and that's why I point back to this with I do have a lot of resentment about this world. But without this world, without the pain and suffering, I couldn't have this world, which is the world of my creations, the world of my own wants and desires coming true, right? And so why am I here not talking about Joe Biden? I was like, dude, we can talk about Joe Biden if you want to. We can talk about the Trumpster if you want to. We can talk about the bullshit thing that is politics, or we can talk about that thing that could actually fix both of those sides, which is AI governance, which is that thing. It's like, it keeps everything so organized and so simple for you already. Why don't you go ahead and move along with it? Why don't you go ahead and attach yourself to it? And I'm sitting there going, there's going to be people that are going to see this coming and already jump full head right into it, say, hey, I'll be part of your beta version. Let's do this. I'm done. And I'm going, wait for it. You got to let this thing cook for a while. I think Twitch was a wonderful place for me to land. And I'm super thankful that I have this little tiny spot to, talk about this stuff, because I only come on here for about an hour a day. I do not believe in long-term, let's get to the facts and let's do this. No, I come on, whatever is supposed to be on the table for that day usually presents itself in real time, right? Because one of the things that I try and point out is like, as the original Twitcher, right? Over here it says original Twitcher, okay? Being a Twitcher is sort of being a trickster. And one of the things that I try and point out is, as a nobody from nowhere that no one knows, is you don't know if I'm just some highly sophisticated AI. You don't know, right? One of the things that I've been noticing lately is this idea that they're going to regulate the internet and they're going to decide who is anonymous and who is a real human, sort of like what Twitter's tried to do with their little blue check marks. And I'm like, and then it's just gotten out of hand. And I'm going to go, hey, this is the whole idea of secrecy, guys. Secrecy is important. You know, the anonymity is important. Okay, I mean, and maybe people have heard of Anonymous, but the funny part about Anonymous or WikiLeaks or anything like that that sits there and shines a light on people. This was what journalism was supposed to be, and then they got bought out. They sold out. You know, sort of like Blink-182. Yeah, that's my age. I remember when I was so into them, and I was like, dude, this is so great. And then I was like, man, they all of a sudden sound super pop. And then, oh gosh, who was I watching? The Machine Gun Kelly the other day. I was like, man, this guy is such a loser. And I was so mad. I was like, this is what is considered punk today. I was like, yeah, okay. And this is why I retreat into the my own worlds where I can sort of play my own versions of whatever. So I'm not here to like. If you want to say that cocktail lounge concepts are bad, the fun part about them is just how to play them. See, it just sounds so like relaxing and chill, and I just enjoy that art so much. And so when I started realizing that there was this thing called synchronicity, where things sort of weave in and out of each other, that there's almost like this golden thread of wisdom and understanding that you can sort of put your hand on. I'm like, dude, what is that? And it's like, oh, it's the same thing that all these other mystics have done. I was like, well, what's my version of that? You know, because it's like, I've already been a saint. I've already been one. I don't want to be a saint anymore. It's like, well, who came up with that concept? It's like, oh, the Catholic Church did. It's like, okay, well, who came up with, what's the Muslim version? Oh, the Sufi. Huh, really? What's the Buddhist version of that? Really? A Bodhisattva? You haven't heard of these guys? Right? You know, the idea of this search for enlightenment, this gigantic search for theological understanding. And I always remember this. I was like, man, theology. What is theology? Theology is this, you know, I thought it was like the study of theory. I never looked it up, but it was like the study of divination. I was like, man, what is divination? You know, it's like every time I heard the word divine, it was like, God, this. And you will see your politicians do this all the way. And this is why I'm here. This is why I'm in the politics section, because I'm sitting there telling people constantly, guys, I know this sounds insane. And I know we have the rule. The rule is that you're not supposed to mix religion with politics. We're supposed to keep those separate, you know, separation between church and state. Well, guess what? That is probably the first lie that you're going to have to get over. That's not a conspiracy. That's not anything bad. It's just like, if you just go and look at it, it's sort of like their number one thing. Just repeat this, and then Solomon Ash the fuck out of it. So, and that's another thing too, is like, as a Twitcher, I have to point you to people. I can't learn it for you. So I just sort of point. And so one of those people that I have to point at constantly is Solomon Ash. The Solomon Ash experiment that was done, I think it was like back in the 1950s or something. This was to show how easy it is to, even with people you don't know, that you're not affiliated with, to sort of get sucked into herd mentality. That there's a lulling of to sleep, almost a hypnotic trance that you get sort of sucked into when you are in a herd of people. Like things that people would do in a group, they would never do alone. And I noticed this even going here to church, to the Mormon church. It was like you had people, and this isn't my line. This is the line from Bill Maher's Religious. You have people that will be normal, everyday people. They will shake your hand. They will say, hi, how's it going? They'll be, beautiful, wonderful people, 6 days out of the week. And then on the 7th, they really, truly believe that this kid or this person, Jesus Christ, this 2,000-year-old Jew, according to the legend, myth, and lore, right, is somehow being blessed and transfigured into a cracker or a piece of bread and some water or wine, and they are literally, and I know how to use that word. I'm not using it figuratively. I'm using it they are literally ingesting this body. Like they have decided to eat the body of a dead corpse. And that is how it is taught. That is how it is taught when you finally get down to the nitty-gritty of what the sacrament is all about. You're going, wait a second, you think you're eating the blood and body of a 2,000-year-old Jew? What the fuck? And these are your politicians. It's just like, why would you ever allow that? And so when you put things into perspective, it can get really frustrating. And perspective is a fascinating thing to mess with. And I always say, if you change your perspective, you can change your dimension. Now, I look at politics as one of the bottom of the barrel of subject matters, but it is also a founding principle in today's time period. And so I was just like, to study Machiavellianism is sort of like studying like the explosive ordnance disposal. You have to study the bomb in order to figure out how it works. It's like study Machiavelli and then go back and go, oh my gosh, the inner workings of your political sphere is so atrociously disgusting. And I'm not talking about like raping little babies, right? That's for your priests. That's for your Catholics that take things out of context in such an atrocious way as well. But when you start wrapping politics and religion together, you start to see it a way more. And you don't need a conspiracy for this. All you need is like interests, as George Carlin said. So notice how if I see something, I want you to know that this doesn't belong to me. I'm one of those, I'm a nobody from nowhere. Nobody from nowhere. All right? Simple. And so as this nobody from nowhere, I have to be able to point to the things that, where I got this information. Now, do I think Bill Maher is anything more than I am? Just a talking head? Well, he says things that make sense. There's another guy out there right now that's saying a lot of things that make a lot of sense, and he sounds like a freaking douche. And his name is Andrew Tate, I think is his name. Bald guy boxer, and he walks around like the freaking, the cock of the walk. Right? He's like, hey, yeah, I'm big swinging dick over here. And he's just like, no one can mess with me. No one can do this. No one can do that. And it's like, dude, you go ahead and paint that target on your back, man. I'm not going to stop you. Right? I've seen what happens when people go up and get, it's going to be, you will be a fad, bro. And that's my thing. I'm not here to be a fad. I have a different purpose. I have a different reason. I have a different motivation for why I'm doing this. And I really do. I want, when my kid is barely over a month right now. When he grows up, I want him to look back at 20 years, like when he's 20 years old, and he goes, man, what did my dad think about Andrew Tate? Oh, by that time, think about 20 years from now, what type of Google searches you could do. I mean, imagine that. Imagine if the internet was fully free and there was no such thing as waiting umpteen years for, to put in a Freedom of Information Act order. Imagine if you could just type stuff in and it just gave it to you. Like everything that people try to keep secret, right there in front of your face. So I say, don't do anything. This goes back to the religious thing. Like there are values and virtues there. This is why I can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because there's a lot of truth there. Andrew Tate is no different. He's got a lot of truth in what he says. And he does a good job of presenting it in a very masculine way, right? That just pisses people off. But there's a lot of people out there that just go, I wouldn't have said it that way, but dude, it's got a point. I can't argue with what he says. And so when someone goes, but it's how you say it, I was like, then you're the pussy he's talking about. Right? So in a way where I'm like, dude, would I want to fight the guy? No, the guy has built himself a little tiny empire and he enjoys it. But if I had the full backing of the United States military, I'd be like, Andrew Tate, you better watch your ass, bro. All right? The guy has built something. And that's the same thing when I look at Joe Biden. He didn't build any of this. He's like, I've been a politician for 40 years. Most politicians don't build shit. They're there to be the middleman between big business and monopolizing your country, right? And then passing the buck and fleecing the people, right? I mean, when someone says the word subsidy, right, realize that that's just another word for laundering money, right? Because, I mean, if you go down the charges in legal terms and then you set those charges next to the government with the definitions of those terms, your government steals your money all the time. And so, don't listen to me. Just go do that. Go look up, espionage and laundering and da-da-da, and just go down. Like, what would it be a typical charge in a RICO case? And just go down and be like, drug peddling, blah, 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 blah. It's just like, I think it's very bizarre how in today's parlance, you have to say, almost immediately, you have to have the knee-jerk reaction of an appalling decision against hate speech. And so when we define that term of hate, when you hate something, I'm just going, yeah, I'm allowed to hate. I'm allowed to not like something. That's what makes me a person. I'm allowed to say, hey, I don't like something. And so when someone goes, you're a bigot, you're an asshole, you're a douchebag for not liking BLM, I'm like, why is it on me to have to clarify your claim? You don't like the way I said something, and so you're trying to conform the way that I say something, sort of like Andrew Tate. And I think the reason that he's doing so well is because he refuses, and he refuses in a very eloquent way. And he says, no, he's like, they'll we'll ban you. It's like, you have fun trying to do that. And they will. They've gone after him so many times. He has a couple different setups where he talks about it. He's like, dude, they shut everything down for me. And when you look at, the same thing with Alex Jones, or you look at anybody who is Mr. Alternative Media that's not legacy media, I'm just going, guys, this isn't about waking up anymore. This isn't about hijacking the word woke and trying to plaster it over some blue-haired freak that doesn't know her ass from the hole in the ground. And I say her for a reason, because the vast majority of woke crazy people are women, right? And they think that they went and they got their college degree in underwater basket weaving, and they think they know how the whole world works. And it's like they've never actually earned a buck in their life. They haven't actually hit the system. And so when you point that out to a lot of these wokesters, I'm just going, guys, you are the modern day version of, the hipster. That's all you are. I'm the modern day version of the Clint Eastwood. The world's going to hell in a handbasket. But I choose to be a little bit more intelligent than the guy who just sits on his on his porch in a rocking chair with a shotgun in his hand, waiting for the commies to show up. I'm not going to be that guy, right? Well, I'm going to be the guy that sits there and goes, hey, here's Twitch. Here's a way for me to go out there and just, bullshit to my heart's delight. Jump from subject to subject to subject to subject, all within the veins of politics, where that I really do not support on any level. And then when people say, oh, well, what's your point? What's your point, Ted? I'm like, it's very simple. Very simple. AI governance. Use the tool that you have. And I would happily like to hear somebody out politic an AI, right? I mean, this thing is going to be smarter than all of us combined. All of us, we will be the anthill in comparison to this thing. And I think I heard, once again, pointing at Elon Musk said this. He's like, when you're building a road, you're just building a road, right? Now, if there's an anthill in that road, do you care about the anthill? No, because you're just building a road. And when you think about what AI is, AI won't be just this robot that's sitting there with a cube. It'll be like Google. It'll be like, hey, everyone's got access to it at any time for any reason. For any reason. And you could ask it anything, and it will have a response for you within seconds. It might not be the response that you're looking for. It might not. You might have to do a little bit more digging. But comparatively speaking to what I had to grow up with, like the Dewey Decimal System, like honestly, I say that now, and I guarantee you there's people who are, if they do watch this, they're going to have to go look up what that was, right? They're going to have to go Google, what is the Dewey Decimal System? And then they'll have to realize how we had to look shit up. Right. And like, even when I was in the military, I have to start wrapping my own head around this, that my career field doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. Right. That if I think that I can create a network from scratch that's better than a purely strategized, 100 billion thousand attempts and has that type of education, has that type of access to information, of 100,000 attempts of what fails and what doesn't. I mean, what do I got with all the missions that I've ran? Like, what, maybe, I don't know, a couple hundred at best of networks that I've built. And this thing, not only could it do like 100,000, it could probably do 100,000 concepts of what would work at any particular site for any site that we have in Google Maps, right? It could sit there and say, hey, I want a network set up for 300 people in the middle of the Sahara Desert. And it was like achievable in this many hours. And it could probably give me that type of time span. Whereas my job was actually having to look at it, do the reconnaissance, do the site survey, know how to do all these things to sit there and go, okay, this is what we can come up with. This is our plan of attack. This is how we can do this. This is how we can save lives. This is how we can make sure that our enemy isn't going to get to us. The AI would be able to do all of this in a matter of seconds that took me almost 6 months of prep time. I mean, just wrap your head around that. And then that's just on a combat level. Imagine what it could do when you're just trying to do your freaking homework. It's just a matter of time when you start realizing, match the data set to the processing power, and you already have a brain. It's exactly how your own brain works. So, like I said, I'm not here to tell you to prepare and be a doomsday prepper for this. This isn't a doomsday event. It is a death style event, but no different than we had the death of the newspaper on your front doorstep when the internet showed up. Okay, you had the death of the horse and buggy the moment the automobile became just it blasted into the existence. Right? This has happened over and over and over and over again. And every revolution is the same thing. Every revolution. And I think this is what all of your great reset people are cluing in on. They're like, this is going to change the world. And we want to be able to implement a few things that make us look good, such as save the planet. Save the planet, everybody. Oh, look, we tried to save the planet. And it's just like, just imagine if all of a sudden we had an AI that took in all the science and came to the conclusion that, that this was a politically funded, just shit show. That it was there to feed fear that the planet is dying and that you're going to hell in a handbasket. And, we need to have all these groups get together and decide how we're going to pick up plastic. It's like, where'd the plastic come from? The earth. If it was never supposed to be put like that. And it's like, that's like saying that the cow that you ate earlier today was never meant to eat the grass. It's like, either you are natural or you are not natural. Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it's unnatural. Okay? It just means it's a part of nature that you haven't arrived to comprehending yet. That's it. And if you're afraid of it, that is natural. You're allowed to be afraid of it. You're allowed to sit there and go, hey, AI is a little spooky. I don't understand it. It's like, yeah, and it's going to feed you your wildest dreams. So how wild can you get? And how wild do you really want other people to know how wild your brain is? I mean, there's a lot of wild shit people still, try to float under the rug. For example, one of the things I also talk about a lot is the penal system. Going and being a part of a correction facility. Think about why people are arrested and thrown in jail. And people will go, oh, because they broke a law. I was like, okay. Well, what it depends. I think why were they breaking that law? And this is how I distill things down. This is how I get to the nitty-gritty of the bullshit that I'm trying to push. If you can find someone's motivations for breaking a law, it usually has something to do with this thing in psychology that every first-year psychologist figures out. It's called the Maslow hierarchy of needs. And the hierarchy of needs basically talks about what you need in order to function in homeostasis. Homeostasis just means balance. That's all it means. It just means like right now, if you're watching this, you're probably sitting here watching on your phone like, oh, this guy's pretty stupid. I don't like him. I fucking hate him. Whatever. But you're in homeostasis. No one's trying to chop your neck off, and you're not dying of starvation, right? If you are dying of starvation, you'll probably sell your cell phone to get some fucking food. And that's why it says the Maslow hierarchy of needs gives you the opportunity to say, this is how I can adjust my world to be in a better place. Now, depending on your goal, depending on what that is, like for a lot of people who break the law, sometimes they were, maybe they stole like 1,000 pencils and they're like, hey, and slap on the wrist, whatever. Maybe you have people out there that like, get into some really horrific shit like kiddie porn, right? If you look at that motivation, you as the human are going to take a particular action accordingly, right? Because you only have certain tools at your disposal to give a character like that. And so maybe you beat his ass, right? Maybe you throw him in a deep, dark hole and you say, not in our society, yeah, which I completely agree with. AI, on the other hand, okay, and this is where it gets a little bit more humane, would say, I can put a chip in your head to give you the ability to have this reality with a cruise ship full of little kids that you can molest to your heart's content. And you will not be in the society. Since that's your dream and you're willing to break the laws of this particular world, I'm going to manufacture a new world for you where that can be your homeostasis. And I know that sounds really fucked up, but the end goal is they won't be here anymore. Right? And isn't that what you wanted? I remember, I don't know if you guys saw the most recent movie. I think it was called The Electric Wars. And they did this thing where they electrocuted a horse or an elephant to prove something that electricity was dangerous. And then, of course, the government got a hold of it, and there was this whole story about how they wanted to introduce the electric chair to kill someone, and it was a humane way to kill someone, right? I think that even though this particular person would find bliss in their horrific lifestyle choices, right, and would also be subtracted from this society, unfortunately, he would also be damned for any type of correction for the rest of that particular moment of that particular consciousness. So, once again, this brings back in that religion, bizarre politics thing. It's like, how do you decide the choices of another person, or how would an AI do that? If an AI could see drastically further into the future than you and be able to predict how you do things, isn't that what we're all doing? We're all pattern recognition machines, and we're trying to alleviate the very real possibilities of our death in different ways, because that's something that we were pre-programmed with from the moment that we were born. Now, if that just blew your mind, realize that a mind blown is a mind grown, and that's exactly what a Twitcher does. Okay? So we're about 46 minutes in. I haven't gotten really anybody in the chat. That's fine. I do, like I said, I do this for the VODs. I do this so that I can save things into a different area of existence. And so, like I said, next 20 years, I think all of this stuff will be searchable. Anything you put out on the internet will be searchable. And the abilities that we will have by the time we get there, it'll make this look like an 8-track tape. So, like I said, for me, knowing all that and being the nobody from nowhere that I am, it's just a form of expression. And so if someone's like, but in today's world, and I was like, dude, you need to expand your mind. That's why I'm here. I want, by the time that people get to this next world, they'll be able to do things a lot simpler than I did them, or that my generation did them. When I look at today's youth, it is sort of bizarre trying to wrap my head around how they're going to surpass us Because that's every generation has done this since the beginning of time. Every generation surpasses the next, and they do it in very bizarre ways. And so I'm sort of excited and I'm stoked. I'm stoked to watch how this unfolds, but I'm also not willing to give up on my own youth for a little while longer. There's going to come the twilight of my life, and if I do get what I think is coming, which is immortality, then I think it is, up to me to leave that best case scenario imprint on the network that I can. And if that's what this is just, my echo into eternity, so be it, motherfucker. Right? And that ends the philosophy of you do you, boo-boo. There's a lot of crazy worlds out there that you can go find. If you want to go study Mormonism, go do it. If you want to go study left-leaning ideologies, go do it. If you want to go study right-leaning ideologies, I highly recommend that you go study AI. That's my recommendation, because that's what's going to supersede all of it. And if you enhance yourself that way, right, you form this symbiotic relationship with AI and stop listening to your human, money-driven, endless, not, over gluttonous overlords in your, political spheres, right? And lean more unto, like, there's a scripture that says, lean not unto thy own understandings and turn to the Lord in all thy ways. And I say, choosing your Lord is the scenario that we're talking about. Most people sit there, I choose Jesus Christ because he just keeps claiming that he's perfect over and over and over again, and he changed my life. I was like, no, what changed your life was being part of a group that said that if you said that it changed your life, they'd accept you. So what you're really looking for is acceptance. And I think you could be on any term that you want to be with AI. So sit with who you are and figure out what type of person you really are and make that transition a little bit easier. I think there are a lot of synchronistic events that we are looking at all throughout this world. I think there's no doubt in my mind that transgender nonsense is on the front burner for a reason. Like everyone's talking about, like, what is a woman? Like, I think that's on the front burner for a reason. The whole idea of politics constantly, no matter where you, like, I can't tell you how many times that it's been pushed into my YouTube stuff, because I enjoy using YouTube. And if you're like me and you enjoy using YouTube, say something in the chat. Like, if you enjoy using YouTube as an actual tool to understand this world a little bit more, right, than just sitting there and getting your little dopamine hit by somebody critiquing a politician or somebody who got triggered, it's just like, man, there's so many awesome things out there that you can research. And the fun thing is, to me, is like, imagine if AI actually got a hold of that. Right? Actually got a hold, and it wasn't about the algorithm to sit there and see what keeps you attached to it. Right? And it was actually about, this is the way that Joe Schmo explained it with his 13, degrees that he got from 5 different universities. And then here's the AI version of the explanation. Imagine if you had the AI version of the explanation of quantum physics or string theory or plasma physics. Imagine if you had that, where it could sit there and watch you, your personality, how you talk, how you present yourself, all the way down, and it can give you the reverse, give you the mirror, and say, hey, this is the best way to teach this person, and put together some content that is specifically for you. Imagine that algorithm and how fast it could help you, right? Because we're all, I've been to 10 different universities, right? 10, and I'm still a student. I'm a senior over there at the University of San Francisco right now. And all I do over there is I play tricks on people. I don't take that place seriously at all. Okay? Because it's not, it is a waste of time to go to university today. And I want my son to know that more than anything else. Like, do not get festooned. Do not get tricked by these people. So if you're wondering who's the best to learn how to play tricks, it's from a trickster himself. And that's what a Twitcher is. He's a trickster, archetype. He's a very bizarre character that is, tricking you for his own amusement and enjoyment. He wants to laugh at your expense, which I sort of do. If you are, Mr. I'm a Democrat forever and I want this and get down with capitalism and fuck the patriarchy, it's like, I can't wait for you to fall on your face, to be honest. And if you're a Republican that's like, no way but Trump, MAGA, 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 I was like, I can't wait for you to fall on your face. I can't wait to watch it. right? I can't wait for you to trip and smash your head on the on the ground and just go, yep, that's what happens when you blindly follow idiots. So anyway, let's go ahead and get out of here, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and play a goofy little song. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't, but we'll see. Ah, that hurt my ears. All right, guys, that's about it. I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much for hanging out. And yeah, my name's Tet, the original Twitcher. You can call me Time Dad Alpha. Laters.